Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. In today's live session, let's discuss the important economics related articles which have appeared in various newspapers from 2nd of April to 8th of April 2022. Let's begin the discussion. The first very important article is related to the concept of green FDs. Now some of you might be thinking, sir, many of the times in the earlier videos, you already have discussed certain aspect or let's say the concept of the green financing. You are absolutely correct. In the earlier videos, we have discussed the concept of green bonds. I repeat, in the earlier videos, we have discussed the concept of a green bond. Now, I am not going to discuss that green bond in this video. I am going to discuss another very important concept related to green financing, the idea of green FDs. Now, what is this FD? FD is nothing but a fixed deposit. Now, I am pretty sure all of you have heard or have kept a certain amount of money in fixed deposit of a particular bank. What do you mean by a fixed deposit here? You will take X rupees, you will approach a bank, keep this particular money for a duration of let's say Y, either months, days or years, doesn't matter. And on this particular X amount of rupee that you have kept for certain fixed period with the bank will provide you, let's say, Z rate of interest. This is a basic idea of fixed deposit. Now, they are taking the same concept, but they are connecting with a new idea here, with the idea of green financing. Now, what do you mean by green FD? There are many banks in India. For example, Union Bank of India, HDFC, Federal Bank and IndusInd Bank, which have issued green fixed deposits. But please be very careful here. Generally, when you discuss the idea of green financing in the form of green bond, there is a limited number of ways through which the green financing can be done. That is, anybody who issues the green bond is allowed to use this particular money in specific number of projects. But in the context of green FDs, you must have heard of Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. If not, please read about it. There are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Now, the banks which will issue the green FDs will collect the money and use it for any projects under Sustainable Development Goals. I'll repeat the statement here. Follow this very carefully. There are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. India is a party to it. We are actually implementing many of these particular sustainable development goals as such. And any bank which issues, right, or let's say which provides a facility of a green FD will collect the money and use it for financing of any project that is associated with sustainable development goals. That is the idea of a green FD. Now, in terms of features of a green FD, these FDs do not have any special features. Please remember this. These are just like normal FDs that we keep in a particular bank. Do they provide a rate of interest on this? Yes. Any special rate of interest is provided on this? Absolutely no. The rate of interest that a bank provides on a green FD is similar to any normal fixed deposit, right, that the bank actually provides the facility of. Any taxation benefit as of now announced by the government, if you keep a fixed, that is a fixed deposit which is a green FD, absolutely no. No special tax benefits have been announced by the government so far. Next very important feature, green FDs will have deposit insurance coverage. Remember this, green FDs will have deposit insurance coverage. Now, what is the meaning of a deposit insurance? If you keep a deposit either in the form of let's say savings accounts or a fixed deposit in a bank, there is an authority, Deposit Insurance Credit Guarantee Corporation, DICGC, Deposit Insurance Credit Guarantee Corporation. And this particular authority, that is DICGC, will provide deposit insurance up to 5 lakh rupees of deposits that you have kept in a particular bank. So, if you keep a fixed deposit in the form of a green FD, will it have a deposit insurance coverage? Yes, it will provide the deposit insurance coverage even to the green FD. In order to ensure that Understand this, in order to ensure that whatever money that you have kept in the form of a green FD is utilized for this particular purpose, that is the projects associated with achieving sustainable development goals, an external management agency, a consulting firm will be provided the task or will be given the task of evaluating the usage of this, and they will issue a certificate. The bank will issue a certificate to you saying that, see, we are ensuring that whatever deposit you have kept with us under the concept of a green FD, we are using for intended purposes only. We are not diverting this for any other purposes. So these are some of the very, very important features of green FDs. This is a very, very novel concept in India. Please be very careful. Questions can be asked in the UPSC prelims, or if at all a question is asked in the UPSC mains about green financing, write about green FDs also. Now based on this, I have given an MCQ here. Consider the following statements. All the green FDs are covered under deposit insurance. Statement is wrong. Now before you get confused, follow this very carefully. Some of you will basically start scratching your head and say, sir, but couple of minutes ago itself, you only told that the FDs will have a deposit insurance, but now you are saying the statement is wrong. Why? Understand this very carefully. The green FDs can be provided by banks as well as NBFCs, non-banking financial companies. Whenever the green FD facility is provided by the bank, it will be covered under DICGC, deposit insurance. Whereas NBFCs as such already do not have any coverage under DICGC. DICGC doesn't provide deposit insurance coverage for NBFCs. Now if you ask me, sir, why don't they provide the deposit insurance for NBFCs? For a very simple reason, DICGC provides coverage only for banks. That is the mandate of DICGC, and this DICGC is a wholly owned subsidiary of Reserve Bank of India. So because DICGC provides the deposit insurance coverage for the banks, the non-banking financial companies, it is there in the name itself, non-banking financial companies. So obviously even if they issue the green FDs, they will not be provided with the coverage, that is insurance coverage. So when I say all the green FDs are covered under the deposit insurance, statement becomes wrong. But look at the reframing of the statement. I will give you another statement. All the green FDs issued by the banks are provided with insurance coverage. Yes, that is correct. Right, so first statement is wrong. Investors, depositors, right, investors or depositors in green FDs enjoy tax benefits. Right now, no tax benefit has been provided for green FDs in India. Third, the returns offered are indexed to inflation rate. Absolutely no. This is also not true in the context of green FDs. Now some of you might be thinking, sir, what do you mean by returns offered are indexed to inflation rate? It simply means from 1 year to next year, imagine your FD will mature within a 1 year. Within that particular year, whatever is the inflation rate, your returns will be indexed or adjusted with respect to the inflation rate. Right? That is the basic idea of an indexation with inflation. But right now we do not have this facility. So all the three statements are wrong. You will have to find out which of the above statements is or are false. All of the three are wrong. Right option will be option D here. Let me go to the next article. The central government might add certain riders. Riders are nothing but conditions to third of 1 trillion loan to states. Now what are the important points here? First point, Government of India has announced 1 lakh crore rupees worth of long-term loans to the state governments. What do you mean by long-term loans in this context? These particular loans will be provided for a duration of 50 years. And second very important feature here is, these particular loans which will be provided by the center to the states do not carry any interest rate. Remember this, they do not carry any interest rate. Now second very important point here, the central government now says that I will provide these particular loans to you, but I might impose certain conditions. How you are supposed to use them, or more precisely, how I will allocate the funds to you, I will impose certain conditions. Sir, what do you mean by this? As per this article, around 65% to 70% of these particular loans will be given without any conditions. Without any conditions. Now you will ask me, sir, how will the central government divide the loans? Because imagine, right, 1 lakh crore is there. One state government will run to the central government, provide an application. Will the central government allocate all the 1 lakh crore rupees to that particular state? Absolutely no. In that case, right, you know what will happen. Right, so that is not the situation here. Central government clearly has stated that in the same ratio, that is, whatever is the recommendation of 15th Finance Commission, as a result of which I am going to devolve the tax proceeds to the states. Is it okay? Based on the recommendation of the 15th FC, I am devolving, that is distributing the tax proceeds from the divisible pool to the states. In the same ratio, I will provide this particular 1 lakh crore rupees to the state governments. Now this is your homework. Please try to find out, as per the recommendation of 15th FC, which are the top 5 states in terms of getting devolution from the central government, right, from the divisible pool. Try to find out. Why? Question can be asked in the UPSC prelims. I am pretty sure most of you will be able to guess which will be the top state, but then the difficulty starts appearing second, third, fourth and fifth top state. That's your homework. Please try to do that. So central government says this 1 lakh crore rupees, I will divide it based on the same proportion, right, as per the recommendation of 15th FC, the devolution will be provided to the states. But out of this, 65 to 70% of the loan that I am going to provide, there will be no condition. Let's assume, what is the meaning of this? Let's assume there is a state X which will get, let's say, 5,000 crore rupees. All these are hypothetical numbers here. Let's assume there is a state X which will get 5,000 crore rupees. So, and let's assume it is 70% slab. So 3,500 crore rupees, central government will simply give it, right? Simply give it to the state for development of infrastructure. That is also very important. For development of infrastructure. That is, remember this 1 lakh crore rupees will be given in the form of capex. What do you mean by capex? Capital expenditure. Right, so this particular 3,500 crore, without any condition, central government will give it to state. But remaining 1,500 crore, central government will simply say, I will put certain condition. What kind of condition can the central government impose? For example, central government might simply say, show me a proof, right, that you have worked and your discoms, that is the distribution companies in the power sector, are performing well. Right, show me certain proof that you are controlling your fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, etc. Again, I am just giving an example. So these kind of conditions can be imposed by the central government, and this particular 1,500 crore will be linked to achieving those particular condition. That is, if the state government X achieves this particular target, then only and only then the 1,500 crore would be provided to that state government. So this is actually covered in this particular article. Now let me go beyond this. As such, please understand this. Central government for the current financial year, I am using the term current financial year because we have already entered into the financial year 23, that is 22 as well as 23 now. For the current financial year, Government of India has set a target of having a capital expenditure of 7.5 lakh crore rupees. First point. Second point, the central government last year also, that is in the financial year 22, had allocated 15,000 crore rupees for the states to promote capital expenditure for the states. But initially when they allocated this particular 15,000 crore, again they had attached certain condition. What were the conditions? Central government told the states, conduct disinvestment in your public sector enterprises. Go for asset monetization. So conditions were imposed, state governments opposed it. State governments basically said, we will not be able to do them right now. And that is the precise reason these conditions were withdrawn. Central government eventually gave up and provided 15,000 crore rupees in the form of capex expenditure to the state governments. And this has been increased from 15,000 crore rupees for last year to 1 lakh crore rupees this year. Some of you might be wondering, sir, why this has been increased. There is a particular reason for it. The central government says from 1st July 2022, please mug up this particular date. Why? This date will keep on appearing again and again in the current affairs now. From the 1st July 2022, whatever is the GST compensation cess, we used to divide and give it to the state governments in the form of GST compensation. That GST compensation will not be provided. I'll repeat it. The GST compensation that the central government provided to the state governments from 1st of July 2017 for the next 5 years, not financial years, next 5 years, that will be discontinued. Why it will be discontinued? Because when it was introduced, central government clearly had stated, I will provide it only for a period of 5 years. So 1st July 2017 and end of June 2022, 5 years are over. So the state governments are expecting that their revenues will come under stress from 1st July 2022. First point. Second point, the central government already has looked at it and given two very important measures, or taken very important measures in order to ensure that the state governments will increase their expenditure. What are the two very important measures? One, have a look at this. 1 lakh crore rupees 50-year interest-free loans for capex have been provided for the current financial year by the center to the state. And second very important condition, or second very important reform is, the central government has allowed the state governments to have a fiscal deficit of 4%. Is it okay? I'll repeat it. Central government has allowed the state governments to have a fiscal deficit of 4%. Now why this is important? Generally under FRBM, we target the fiscal deficit of 3%. But the center knows that the state finances in the current financial year will come under pressure. So they have given a more headway, or let's say they have given more leg space for the state governments to borrow more and increase their capital expenditure in the current financial year. So these are some of the very important points related to this article. Let me go to the next very important article. The agreement between India and Australia, the trade agreement. Now the name of the trade agreement right now, remember this, is ECTA, Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement. It is not CPA right now, it is not an FTA also, it is a higher concept of an FTA. The name that they have given is Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement. And various articles have given this, and even in the statement that was published by the government, they have clarified it. Initially they wanted to have an early harvest trade agreement, but later they decided no, let's not go for an early harvest, let's enter into a trade agreement. And eventually in the next couple of months negotiations will continue and they will have comprehensive economic cooperation agreement. Is it okay? Comprehensive economic cooperation or partnership agreement in the next couple of months. Now you'll have to wait and see what will be the nature of the comprehensive economic agreement that will be signed later. But right now, what are the important points here? Follow this particular discussion. Certain very important points can be picked up by UPSC from this article itself. First one, in terms of the merchandise trade between India and Australia, what has happened? India says, you export the goods to India, around 70%, I will cover them, I'll reduce the tariff so that you can export more and more to India. Second, India will also export more than 12,000 merchandises or goods to Australia. To begin with, around 95% of this, the tariff will be lowered, and over a period of time, that is in the next 5 years, 100% of these particular goods will be covered and tariff will be eliminated. So we will be able to export more and more to Australia. And as such, remember this, right now, the bilateral trade, that is the total value of the trade between India and Australia, is somewhere around $27 billion. For 2021, it was $27 billion. Under this particular trade agreement, we want to increase and achieve $50 billion in the next 5 years. We want to achieve a total trade worth $50 billion in the next 5 years. Now this is in terms of merchandise, or let's say the exports of goods. Now second, in terms of services, what are the very important point here? In terms of services, India will be getting a preferential access, right? That is liberalized norms will be applicable with respect to service exports that India does to Australia. This is very, very important. India will export services to Australia. Australian government will apply liberalized norms, very loose norms for these particular service exports that we are doing. In fact, under this particular agreement, 100 subsectors under the service sector will be covered, and these liberalized norms would be applicable for these particular 100 subsectors. Now, what is the importance here? First and foremost, India is exporting a lot of services to international market, and if you see generally in the context of GDP, more than 50 to 55% of the contribution to GDP comes from the services sector. And second, our exports in the form of services are also very, very high. Now we will be able to export more and more services to Australia because of this. But more importantly, remember this particular point also. There is one agreement under WTO, General Agreement in Trade, a General Agreement on Trade in Services, GATS. Very important, General Agreement in Trade on Trade in Services, GATS agreement. Under GATS agreement, we generally divide the services into 4 types. I'll connect it to the current affairs here. Under GATS, we'll divide the services into 4 types. Rather than saying 4 types, they will write this as Mode 1, Mode 2, Mode 3 and Mode 4. Is it okay? Mode 1, 2, 3 and 4. And please go through all of these particular 4 modes. For example, in the current affairs, that is the trade deal between India and Australia, they are going to cover Mode 4. I'll repeat it. In the context of India and Australia trade agreement, they are going to cover Mode 4 under the GATS that recognizes the services trade like this. Mode 4 basically deals with movement of natural persons. Is it okay? Movement of natural persons. Sir, what do you mean by that? Under this agreement, now for example from India, chefs can easily go to Australia because they are covered under this particular Mode 4 that is covered under the services which is covered under the trade deal. Right? Yoga teachers can simply go there. Right? Services person, anybody who is going to provide the services and that is going to be covered under this agreement, they can easily travel to Australia, provide the services in Australia. That is the importance of this particular agreement in the context of services. Second very important point. Third very important point. There are certain sensitive areas or sensitive sectors. There are certain sensitive areas or sensitive sectors. Those have not been covered under this particular agreement. Best example, agriculture sector. Okay, there are certain sensitive sectors. Generally, Indian government is very touchy with respect to agriculture. Because if I cover agriculture sector and I will allow Australia to export more and more goods, and Australia, trust me, can export more of these agriculture commodities to India, farmers India will be unhappy with that. And generally government will try to protect these particular sectors. So sensitive sectors has been kept out of this particular agreement. Fourth very important point, safeguard mechanism has been put in place. Remember this. Safeguard mechanism has been put in place. That is, if the imports from Australia suddenly surge, they increase into India, it will affect the domestic manufacturing. And obviously domestic manufacturers or companies will be unhappy with the government. So there is a safeguard mechanism which will be implemented by the government, and the safeguard mechanism has been inserted within the trade agreement. Fifth very important point. Fifth very, very important point. There is a compulsory review mechanism after 15 years of implementation of this agreement. Compulsory, there will be a review of this particular agreement. Why this makes a lot of sense for India? Earlier, Government of India signed many trade agreements with many countries. But over a period of time, we have realized that the other partners are getting more benefit out of this trade agreement. Our trade deficit is actually increasing with these particular countries. So after 15 years, there is a compulsory review mechanism under this agreement. Remember this, very important. And the sixth very important point, I'll write it at the top here. It will try to address the issue of double taxation that the service sector companies used to face, which provided the services from India to USA. Now what am I talking here? Software companies, whenever they take a deal or whenever they enter into an agreement to provide certain services to, let's say, the clients, they will generally divide the work into 2 parts. That is, most of the work, or let's say part of the work, they will do it in India, and remaining work they will do it in Australia. That is the place where the client is actually present. That is, in simple terms, on-site services will also be provided. Now, because of various judgments in the Australian courts, even those part of the services which were provided from India, that is, imagine part of the software is built in India, code is written in India. So obviously that income is generated in India. Australian courts basically stated that even that particular income which the Indian software company is generating, right, doing the coding in India, will be considered for taxation in Australia. As a result of this, Indian software companies paid a huge amount of taxes both in the countries, that is India as well as Australia. That led to double taxation on these particular software companies. Now under this particular agreement, this issue will be resolved. Is it okay? This particular double taxation will be resolved. So these are some of the very important points regarding the trade deal between India and Australia. Now an MCQ on this. Consider the following statements regarding India, Australia, ECTA. It has an inbuilt safeguard mechanism in case of surge in imports. Statement is true. Compulsory review mechanism after 5 years. Statement is wrong. It is after 15 years. Remember this. Right. So based on this analysis, option A is the correct one. Let me go to the next article. The Reserve Bank's fiscal conundrum. Right. What is being discussed in the article? Very simple. Follow the discussion here. RBI on one side has to maintain the interest rates in the market. I will write the short form here, IR, interest rates. RBI has to maintain the interest rates. Why? Government of India borrows huge amount of money by issuing bonds. If the interest rates in the market are very high, simply means Government of India's borrowing cost will be very high. The borrowing cost in simple terms is government will issue bonds, pay higher rate of interest. That higher rate of interest is nothing but the borrowing cost here. So RBI has to maintain interest rate at a lower rate, which it has successfully done in the last 2 years. How has RBI conducted its affairs? It has supplied huge amount of money. It has gone for a quantitative easing policy, as a result of which money supply in the domestic market has increased, rupee supply has increased. As a result of which interest rates have been on lower side. It has helped the borrowings of Government of India. Government has been able to borrow at lower rate of interest. And on the other hand, RBI also has the duty of stabilizing exchange rate. It also has the duty of stabilizing exchange rate. Right? What do you mean by stabilizing exchange rate? In the last couple of months, you must have observed or seen in the newspaper articles, there is a lot of outflow of foreign currencies. That is, foreign investors are taking a lot of money from India. They are moving out of India. Multiple reasons are there. Uncertainty, volatility, right, or the federal tapering which is being conducted by Federal Reserve. Multiple reasons. But there is an impact of all of this. Whenever foreign investors will take out the money, they will supply the rupees in the forex market, take out the dollars, which will lead to rupee depreciation and dollar appreciation. And RBI says, it is my duty to stabilize rupee depreciation here. And that is the precise reason in the last couple of weeks you must have heard of this. RBI has taken measures such as swaps to stabilize rupee value. But whenever RBI does this, that is basically to stabilize the rupee value from depreciating further, what does RBI do? RBI will suck out rupees. RBI will basically take out rupees from the market, supply dollars. And whenever RBI takes out the rupees from the market, that is basically takes out lot of rupees from, let's say, the forex market, where the banks are the participants, rupee supply in the overall market will come down. Follow the next sequence here. Follow the sequence here. Right, understand this. RBI will take out the liquidity, or let's say suck out the rupees from the forex market. The sequence is very simple. The rupee supply comes down. When the rupee supply comes down, what will happen to interest rates? Interest rates will start rising. And when the interest rates will start rising, what will happen to borrowings of the Government of India? Imagine the interest rates have risen. Government of India issues a bond. Do you think Government of India will be able to borrow at a lower rate of interest or a higher rate of interest? government will be forced to pay higher rate of interest. Right? So this is the conundrum that the article is essentially discussing. Article says that on one side RBI is expected to stabilize rupee, and in the process it will take out rupees from the market, interest rates tend to rise up, and on the other hand it also needs to maintain lower interest rate so that it can help Government of India borrow at lower rate of interest. And for the current financial year, Government of India has estimated, I am taking the budget numbers here, Government of India has estimated more than 16 lakh crore rupees worth of borrowing, and majority of this particular borrowing Government of India does by issuing government bonds itself. Right? So the argument here is, this is the difficult position that RBI has been placed in. So Government of India wants to borrow more, rates of interest might increase, and there is one more reason for this particular concern also. Just like RBI, please understand there are many other central banks around the world. And what is the practice being conducted by the central bankers now? They say that we have supplied lot of money into the economy. There is a concern of rising inflation levels. Is it okay? Best example, USA. Inflation rates are rising up, which indicates that there is a lot of money which is being supplied in the market. So central bankers will move towards taking out this particular money supply from the market, which will essentially lead to higher interest rate, more outflow from India, and RBI might be forced in the coming days to hike the interest rate, to increase the interest rate further, which will affect the Government of India's borrowing. So this is in a nutshell what is provided in the article here. Let me go to the next article, economic cost of food grains. First and foremost, understand this, Government of India has passed National Food Security Act of 2013, NFSA 2013. Under NFSA, we need food grains to provide to various beneficiaries, because various beneficiaries are covered under NFSA. Now, which is the authority which is responsible for procuring the food grains from the central government side? It is Food Corporation of India, FCI. Now, that is where the story will start. Food Corporation of India doesn't have any commercial operations. It is basically involved in implementation of public distribution system. What does FCI do? It will procure food grains, pay money to the farmers, and use the food grains to move from one state to another state. That is basically it will move the food grains from one state to another state, right? So that those particular states where sufficient food grains are not available, the grains will be used for distribution purposes. But in the process of procurement and distribution, understand this, the Food Corporation of India will incur a huge amount of expenditure, and that expenditure that the FCI will incur for procurement as well as the distribution is called as economic cost of food grains. I'll use the short form ECFG. Now on one side, the FCI is procuring lot of food grains, paying money, incurring cost for distribution, movement, etc. But when these particular food grains are distributed, the price that the FCI collects is a very small amount. For example, under NFSA, what is the issue price? Issue price under NFSA is 3 rupees for rice, 2 rupees for wheat, and 1 rupee for coarse grain. So on one side, NFSA spends lot of money, and on the other hand, when they distribute, they collect a very small amount of money. The gap between that essentially is provided by the government in the form of subsidy. Is it okay? It is provided by the government in the form of subsidy. But please understand this, this is not the complete amount of subsidy, because under NFSA when the food grains are distributed, that is essentially the concept of consumer subsidy. But apart from this, FCI also maintains something called as a buffer stock. FCI also maintains something referred as a buffer stock, right, or strategic reserves. FCI will procure lot of these particular food grains, that is paddy and wheat, store them, and whenever there is an emergency, these particular food grains can be utilized. As per the article, it says the buffer stock norm is 40 million tons. The article says 40 million tons. The FCI website says it is 50 million tons. So I will go with FCI website. Right, so 50 million tons worth of buffer stocks have been procured stored by FCI. But apart from the buffer stock, because FCI also follows a concept of open-ended procurement policy, wherein if you, let's say, produce paddy and wheat procured by the government, take it to, let's say, the FCI warehouse or FCI store, the procurement center, FCI has to purchase it. They cannot say no to you, right? Because they follow an open-ended procurement policy. So they will maintain buffer. In addition to the buffer, because of this particular policy, they end up procuring lot of food grains, right? And the result of this, the total amount of a cost incurred by Food Corporation of India becomes very, very high. As per the standing committee report, or as per one of the reports, they say that the amount of economic cost of food grains incurred by FCI is 40% more than the procurement cost. I'll repeat it. The economic cost of food grains that is procured by, right, or incurred by the FCI is 40% more than the procurement cost. In simple terms, they are paying huge amount of money. Now, who is going to finance all of this? Government of India. From where does Government of India get this particular money? Taxpayers. You have paid tax, I have paid tax, and that is how the tax amount is being utilized here. And as per one more survey, based on whatever is the total volume of food grains that was stored by FCI, the value of these particular food grains was somewhere around 1.9 lakh crore rupees. Is it okay? They maintain buffer, they have open procurement. As a result of this, the total amount of food grains that is stored by FCI is of value of around 1.9 lakh crore rupees. And the article says this is a wrong policy. We are having a very casual approach towards this. Why this is a wrong policy? First and foremost, understand this. Buffer norms work out when there is a scarcity of production. I'll repeat the statement. Buffer norms work out when there is a scarcity of production. In case of India, we do not have a scarcity, rather we have a surplus production. Paddy and wheat is a surplus production in India. That is one problem. Second problem, government on one side says farmers' income should increase. They should double. But if the farmers' incomes have to be increased, infrastructure has to be very good in the economy. For example, we need better cold warehousing facilities. We need to ensure there is higher food processing infrastructure. So the argument here is, rather than simply spending so much of money and storing very high volume of food grains which you may not require, why don't you use that money to promote infrastructure development, to promote food processing, etc. Right, so that is the gist of the article provided here. Is it possible to reduce steep economic cost of the cost of storing of food grains? Yes. Recommendations just now we have discussed, remember it. Now, next article, concept of zero coupon bonds. The idea of zero coupon bond is very simple. Generally, when you talk about bonds, there is a coupon rate. Now, those of you who are very new to the idea of coupon rate, please understand, coupon rate in simple terms is interest rate. You keep a fixed deposit, the bank will give you interest rate. In the concept of bonds, you purchase a bond, the issuer of the bond will pay you coupon rate. But there is a special type of a bond referred as a zero coupon bond. In case of zero coupon bond, I will use a short form here. There is no coupon rate. Remember this. There is no coupon rate. Now some of you will simply keep on wondering, sir, if there is no coupon rate or interest rate, why should I invest in such a bond? Answer is very simple. Whenever these particular bonds are issued, these will not be issued at the face value, rather these are issued at discount. Sir, what do you mean by this? Imagine this is a bond. The bond is having a value of 100. It is written on the bond, the value is 100 rupees. So when the issuer will issue the bond to you, he will not collect 100 rupees from you. He will basically sell it, let's say at 85 rupees to you. This is called as discount. Right, so the issuer has issued, collected 85 rupees, and let's say after maturity, right, once the bond is matured, he will simply collect the bond back and give you 100 rupees. This is how the zero coupon bonds generally function. Now, connection to this, remember this. Government of India issues treasury bills. Government of India issues treasury bills. Sir, what do you mean by treasury bills? These are the G securities which are issued by the government with a maturity period of up to 1 year. Up to 1 year, 91 days, 182 days and 364 days. That is a maturity period. Treasury bills are the zero coupon securities. I'll repeat the statement. Treasury bills are zero coupon securities. This statement was in fact used in one of the UPSC prelims. Right, so remember this. Treasury bills are issued in the form of zero coupon securities. That is, when the treasury bills are issued, these are not issued at face value. These are issued at a discount. You will have to purchase it at discount. After maturity period, you will get the full value. Now, what is given in the article? A new type of an institution, that is infrastructure debt funds as well as NBFCs, now have been allowed by the income tax department to issue and raise money by issuing zero coupon bonds in the market. That is the gist of the article provided here. Apart from this, there is a concept of 50% has to be utilized for this, etc. related to ID funds. That is not relevant for UPSC. Done? So this is the gist of the article provided here. I have given an MCQ. Consider the following statements. Treasury bills are zero coupon securities, correct? Zero coupon bonds or instruments can be issued only by the government. Statement is wrong. Can be issued by the government, can be issued by the private sector companies as well. Right? So right option is option A, only one is correct. Let me go to the next article. DBU. Now what do you mean by DBU? The long form is given here. DBU essentially stands for Digital Banking Unit. Now first and foremost, understand the basic here. I'm pretty sure all of you have gone to a bank branch. Is it okay? All of you have visited a bank branch, either for account opening purposes, either to complain regarding the services of the bank, or to collect your, right, let's say passbook, checkbook, whatever it is. You must have visited a bank branch. Now RBI, rather than calling this as a bank branch, will call this as a banking outlet. Remember this. We'll refer to this as a banking outlet. What do you mean by a banking outlet, sir? As per RBI's definition, scheduled commercial banks, how does it define a banking outlet? It is a fixed area. Is it okay? It is a fixed area or a fixed point of business unit. Fixed point of business unit which is having either the employees of the bank, right? Which is having either the employees of the bank or there are banking correspondent. And this particular place, that is a fixed point of business unit, this particular place will be open for at least 4 hours every day and will be working for at least 5 days a week, or let's say 5 days, not at least 5 days a week. I'll repeat it again. What is a banking outlet? It is a fixed point of business unit wherein people who are there in this particular place either are the employees of the bank or, right, these are banking correspondents. And this particular business unit will work for at least 4 hours every day for 5 days a week. They will refer to this as a banking outlet. Remember this particular definition. Why? RBI now has introduced the concept of a DBU, Digital Banking Unit. And it will basically say a DBU will be nothing but a banking outlet itself. Is it okay? A DBU is nothing but it is a banking outlet itself. Some of you might be wondering, sir, there is already a banking outlet in the form of a bank branch. What is the specialty about digital banking outlet or digital banking unit? RBI now says that these particular scheduled commercial banks, except, remember this also, these particular scheduled commercial banks, except regional rural banks, payment banks and local area banks, now they will have to open the digital banking units so that digital services can be provided to customers. This is very important. Digital services, right, can be provided to customers. Sir, what do you mean by digital services here? For example, you want to open a bank account. Right now what happens? Either you will go to a bank, personnel is there, you will interact with the person and you will, right, basically process the forms, or you will submit the forms, you will submit all the details, etc. Under the concept of a DBU, person will not be there. There is a machine, there is an interactive machine, you will use the machine and you will provide all the details and the bank account can be opened. Same thing can be done with respect to withdrawal of the funds. A machine is there. You will go enter the details from the machine. The cash will be dispensed. Now some of you will simply say, sir, we already have an ATM. That is exactly what will be provided under DBU. Now you will ask me, sir, in a bank branch also they will provide ATM. Here also you are saying an ATM will be provided. What is the difference? Under a DBU, whenever you want to withdraw funds, only ATM will be there. Person will not be there. That is, if you go to a bank branch, cashier is there, you will submit the check, you will withdraw the money. But in a DBU, there is no person. Absolutely no person. Right? Again, initially they have said that yes, either you can provide self-services or you will have certain people to assist the people who are going to walk in, the customers who are going to walk into a DBU. But RBI's clearly directive is that whenever the customer who is going to use a DBU wants to submit money, deposit money, withdraw money, right, it has to be done through machines. He wants to open a bank account, has to be done through the interactive machines, etc. So any assets that are provided by the bank has to be done through these kinds of digital technologies. Any liabilities of a bank has to be provided through this concept of digital technology itself. That unit is referred to as digital banking unit. Is it okay? Now all of these particular banks, scheduled commercial banks, mind you, except RRBs, except the payment banks, etc., which already have an experience in terms of digital lending or digital services, they will now have to open up DBUs in tier 1 to tier 6 cities or centers. Is it okay? Tier 1 to tier 6 centers without taking any approval from RBI. Now you will keep on wondering, sir, what is tier 1 and tier 6 centers? As per RBI's definition, the cities or let's say the centers where the banking or let's say the banks are established are generally divided based on the population. Right? It will start from tier 6, it will go up to tier 1. Tier 1 will have a population of more than 1 lakh. Tier 6 will have a population of up to 5,000, that is below 5,000. So these are certain very important points regarding the DBUs. Now based on this I have given a question. Consider the following statements regarding DBUs. All the scheduled commercial banks can open DBUs. Statement is wrong. Not all of them can open. Right? The local, the payment banks, the RRBs, they are not allowed to open these particular DBUs. DBUs can be opened only in tier 1 and tier 2 centers. Again, this is wrong. Tier 1 to tier 6 centers. Right? Everywhere DBUs can be opened. So right option for this question will be option D. The last article for the day. Cap on RRB's PSL portfolio sale may be eased. Now what is the gist of the article here? In case of banking sector, we have a concept of priority sector loans. PSL, priority sector loans. In case of the scheduled commercial banks, the limit is fixed at 40%. Again, there are exceptions within this also. For example, small finance bank, it has been kept at 75%. In case of urban cooperative banks, now it will be increased to 75%. So understand this, there is a concept of PSL. In case of RRBs, which are again part of the scheduled commercial banks itself, it is kept at 75%. Now whenever the banks will achieve this particular PSL target, if they exceed the PSL target, there is one facility called as PSL certificate. Is it okay? There is a facility called as PSL certificate. For example, sir, what do you mean by this? Imagine here is a bank X. The PSL target for this particular bank X is, let's say, 40 lakh rupees or 40 crore rupees. Now this bank, rather than meeting the target of 40 crore, it will exceed the target, issue 41 crore rupees worth of loans under PSL. So there is extra 1 crore rupees of PSL loans which has been issued by this particular bank. Now RBI says, because you have exceeded the target, I want to reward you. Right? How this can be rewarded? Again, they will not use the term reward, but these particular banks can be incentivized for meeting these particular the PSL targets. How? There is a concept called as a PSL certificate. These particular banks can issue a PSL certificate which can be purchased by another banks for meeting the PSL targets. Right? Let's take another example here. Another bank Y. This bank is supposed to meet, let's say, 80 crore rupees worth of targets under PSL loans. It has achieved only 79 crore rupees. So does it happen? Yes, it actually happens. For example, there was a survey conducted for public sector banks, and as per survey, one bank, right, out of every 12 public sector banks has not been able to meet the PSL targets. And what generally happens here? This bank X has exceeded the target by 1 crore. This bank Y has been falling short of the target by 1 crore. X will sell the PSL certificates to Y. Understand my statement here. X will sell PSL certificate to Y. It will not sell the loan. It will simply sell PSL certificates. What is a PSL certificate here? It's an instrument in simple term. Every PSL certificate will have a value of 25 lakh rupees. Is it okay? Every PSL certificate will have a value of 25 lakh rupees. And RBI has developed a CBS, right, that is core banking solution platform in the name of eKuber. These particular banks can sell these particular PSL certificates under this particular platform. Is it okay? I'll repeat it. The banks can trade, that is basically sell the PSL certificates through eKuber platform. Now X will, right, basically sell 4 PSL certificates to Y, and Y will pay certain commission charges, right, to the company or the bank X. Now what is the importance of all of this discussion that I am making in the context of the article? For RRBs, go back to the starting point. The target is 75%, but RRBs, out of the total loan portfolio, more than 90% of the loans are given to those sectors which are covered under PSL. And generally, if you look at these particular sectors, the rate of interest that is charged by the banks is much lower. As a result of this, the revenue of RRBs is lower. The profitability of RRBs is under pressure. Now the article says that there is a discussion that has been happening between RBI and these particular RRBs, as per which RBI might simply reduce, right, understand this very carefully, RBI might simply reduce the threshold of selling the PSL certificates. Sir, what do you mean by this? Right now, RRBs first should meet PSL target of 75, and after meeting 75%, any extra PSL loans issued, RRBs are allowed to issue PSL certificates on that. Whereas in case of the scheduled commercial banks, the target is 40%. Now it is said that the RRB's target can be reduced to 40%. Again, understand this very carefully. I am not saying that PSL target will be reduced to 40%. I am saying that only after 75% target they are allowed to issue PSL certificates. As per the article provided or as per the information provided here, now even if the RRBs meet the PSL target of 40%, anything extra that is above 40%, they can issue PSL certificates on that. The PSL target will remain same, 75. But above 40%, any loans that they are going to issue, they are going to meet 75%, that extra 35%, they can issue PSL certificates on that. Right? As a result of this, the earnings of RRBs are expected to improve. Right? So this is the gist of the article provided here. So these are the various articles as well as the questions related to articles for the duration 2nd of April to 8th of April 2022. If you like the initiative, please hit the like button, provide your valuable comments in the section below. And if you have not yet subscribed to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS, please subscribe. Thank you. Have a great day.